Now, in his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins talked about getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and everybody in the right seats. This is the bus that he talks about. So in the book, Good to Great, the problem is he doesn't teach us how to get them on the bus, he doesn't teach us how to get them off the bus, and he doesn't teach us how to get them in the right seats. The book, Good to Great, is the wrong book for all of you. It's the wrong book for almost every company out there these days. We're still trying to get from 0 to good, let alone from good to great. So I'm going to teach you how to get them on. This is the bus, though. He talked about this group called the Merry Pranksters, who drove around the United States in the early 60s tripping on acid. Now, the reason he used this group as an example, not that he wants us all to go and take acid. We'd have some pretty cool visions for our painted picture, maybe, but what he wanted was to understand their mantra. They had a saying on their bus, and their mantra was, you're either on the bus or off the bus. What they meant by that was, you're either part of this or you're not. You either get it or you don't. You're either with us or you're not. What they understood as this group of the Merry Pranksters was, if they had the wrong people on the bus, it would ruin the trip. Literally. Our company is like this bus. You don't want to have the negative people coming into your company every day because they'll ruin your company. It's like the cultural cancers. We have to get the toxins out of our body, so we have to start putting good stuff in, stop putting bad stuff in, and we have to start getting the bad stuff out. Right? Our company is the same way. Put good things into your body, but it's hard to put good things in when bad things are in there because they don't want to mix. You ever notice that? If you go to a friend's party, a cocktail party, and there's a few negative people, you don't really want to talk to the negative people, do you? So you end up over here talking to the positive, fun people. What happens to the negative people? They all kind of end up in the corner together because no one really wants to talk to them. Energy pushes the other types of energy away. Think of your company this way. So I'll give you an analogy around recruiting. It's duck hunting. Do you guys have a fine for that? I like $20 for anyone who has his phone on. Donated to something. So here's the analogy I use. My grandfather owned a hunting and fishing resort, so we'd go duck hunting constantly, and every time we were sitting in the duck blind, he would talk about business. So I remember one year we were out, I was about 14 years old, and I'm eating my peanut butter and honey sandwich, and he's eating peanut butter and onions. It's gross, every day. Right? Peanut butter and onions. I'm drinking my hot chocolate, and he's got his coffee, and way off in the distance are these ducks flying. I'm like, Grandpa, call them in. He's like, those are the wrong ducks. I'm like, what do you mean they're the wrong ducks? I'm not even sure if they are ducks, they're so far away. He's like, yeah, wrong formation, their wings are flapping the wrong way, and they're too low to the water. I'm like, how the hell do you know this? And he said, I'm really clear on what I'm looking for that I can tell from a mile away. The ducks should be in a different formation, their wings will flap slightly differently, they're going to be coming from this area over here, Merganser Bay, and those will be the right ducks. He said, when you're recruiting people, you need to know from a mile away if these are the right people. You need to think in advance, what are the behavioral traits of the people that you want in your company? If you don't think in advance of what the behavioral traits are for the people that you're going to be interviewing, then how could you possibly have the best employees? Because all you've done is selected from the group that you got instead of recruiting the kinds of ducks that you do want. What's the model of a duck for your company? What are the behavioral traits? So I talked about college pro painters. 800 franchisees every year. Now these were the core ducks for us. These were the absolute best that we had to hire. So the traits that we looked for were leadership, attainment, tenacity, introspection, interdependence, fundamental ability, and instrumental ability. Those were the 7. We had a definition for all 7 of those. For tenacity, it was the dog-like work ethic to get over, under, or around any obstacle put in one's path. If you asked any of the 60 people at the head office to define leadership, attainment, tenacity, introspection, interdependence, fundamental ability, or instrumental ability, we all had the exact same definition for each of those 7. We could also give you 5 questions that we would ask to come up with a rating for any of those 7 definitions. So that meant anybody who was interviewing knew what to look for, knew how to define it, and knew how to find it. So ask yourself, do you really have the best employees? What are the behavioral traits you're looking for? Can all of your employees name them? Can all of your employees define them? Do you know what questions to ask to find them? See, don't tell me that it's hard to grow a business. We make it hard on ourselves by not putting a simple system in place. That system costs you no money. And it does not take a bunch of MBAs to put in place. It's caused thinking in advance, what are the ducks you're looking for? So what else did I learn from the duck blind? Oh, do you guys know the name Zappos? Put your hand up if you've heard of Zappos. So Zappos is getting pretty famous now for their company culture. I had dinner with Tony Hsieh and Alfred Lin, the CEO and COO, about 6 years ago. There were 12 of us having dinner together in Las Vegas. 12 of us at this table. I was sitting across from Tony, who's the CEO, one of the most boring people I've ever met in my life. No energy, no smiles, very analytical, not exactly the culture god that he's been made out to be. He is incredible around culture because he's systemized culture. So I asked him, what's something you've done to know from a mile away if you have the right employees? What does Zappos do to know from a mile away? Well, Zappos' head office used to be in Henderson, Nevada, which was 25 minutes away from the downtown core. People would have to fly in from all over the United States. Zappos is a multi-billion-dollar online retailer, mostly in shoes. They were bought by Amazon about 3 years ago for $980 million. They sell shoes. What they do at Zappos, if you're going to fly in for an interview, you had to come from all over the United States to come to their office for an interview because they were hiring so many people. And they would literally go to the airport and pick up 4 or 5 job candidates at the same time, and they'd shuttle you over to their head office. So they'd drive you the 25 minutes by the shuttle to their head office. They'd drop you off at the front door, and you'd walk into their building, greeted by all the cool culture and the popcorn machine, and you'd feel all the energy of Zappos. Now, what do you think the shuttle driver did at that point? The shuttle driver went around to the side of the building and walked in the side door of the building of Zappos and sat down at his desk with his team in HR and said, Bob was a jerk. I drove 4 candidates in from the airport today. Bob was horrible. He was mean. He was rude. I heard him talking to one of his kids. It was terrible. Kelly was super friendly. Kelly was really energetic. She actually tried to calm Bob down. She failed, but she was really great. The 2 other people were pretty darn good as well. And then guess what happens? Someone from HR walks out to the front door where the 4 candidates are sitting, and they say to Bob, Bob, I'm sorry, but you've actually been selected out of the rest of the interview process. We'll be driving you to your hotel now. We'll still cover your flight out, but we've decided that you're not going to proceed with the rest of the interviews. See, the job interview today, Bob, it started at the airport, not at the front door. Zappos has started the interview at the airport 25 minutes before you got to their company because they want the behavioral traits. They don't care what your skills are until they know if you're the right kind of person to hang out with. They don't want you on the bus until they know. So what are you doing to know in advance? So the other thing I learned about a duck blind is you put decoys out to attract ducks into your blind. What decoys are you putting out to attract people into your company? See, our company itself, our physical office, is or are our decoys. Great employees are not going to come and work for an average company. When you go home this afternoon to your office, stand outside and look at your building and say, am I attracting people or am I pushing them away? Walk in the front door and say, am I attracting people or am I pushing them away? If they walk around your office and you've got workstations that are this high, Dilbert was making fun of those workstations 30 years ago. You are not attracting people to your office. And I guarantee you, it's time to pick on Mark again. If you're wearing a suit and tie, you're pushing people away. Dude, this is not New York. I get it. We all read Dress for Success. Our mom bought us the book, but it pushes people away. Take the tie off, never wear it again, go vulnerable, open neck, and you'll attract more people in than the feeling of you're intimidating to us. The big desk, the corner office is intimidating. Those are rules that we read about, we learned about. You've got to take the tie off because it's pushing people away, right? There's a guy here in the 3rd row, brown jacket, orange and white shirt, perfect business attire. But it's vulnerable, it's open neck, it's approachable. The decoys either push people away or bring them into the duck blind, okay? So ask yourself that and be really critical of that. You don't have to spend tons of money on your office. You just have to ask, am I pulling people in or am I pushing them away? And the last thing I learned about from duck hunting was you hunt ducks with a shotgun because it sprays the pellets out. But when you're looking for A players, for the best employees, you hunt with a rifle. See, for me, business is a full contact sport. I would be working in this market and I would still be friends with all of you, but I'll tell you what, Between 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock, it's game time, man. It's Full Metal Jacket, and I want every good employee that's in this marketplace, and I will find a way to poach them. I will recruit them. I will make sure they know that my culture is awesome. When they walk in my front door, they will never want to leave. I'm going to handcuff them. I'm going to pay them less than you're paying them, but they will work for me. And watch what happens to my culture, because all the bobs that are negative energy are going to get fired, and they can end up going to work with government, I guess. Right? You have to decide to recruit and keep those best players. Business isn't complicated. When you have a group of the right people who are vibrating in the right way, who can all see the same thing, who are all focused on that same painted picture, it gets easy to build a company because everyone's completely aligned. But if you have a bunch of B players who aren't aligned, who are the wrong culture people, yes, it gets hard because then you're trying to herd cats all day long. So how do you find out if you have the right cultural fit? I do a group interview. I try to bring 6 or 8 candidates in at the same time. I have one person from my company interview 6 or 8 people at the same time. So if I'm looking for a customer service person, I'll have 6 customer service potential candidates here. I'm going to interview all at the same time. What do you do for fun? Everybody answers. What's the most stressful time in your life? Everybody answers. What's your favorite book? Everybody answers. Favorite TV show? Trick question. If they name lots of TV shows, we generally don't want them. I want people like, you know what? Don't really watch much TV, or I might tape a show, but I don't really sit and watch TV because I'm doing X, Y, Z. I'm so involved with all these other aspects of my life that I don't have time for reality TV. I'm creating reality. My last 2 questions. If we were hiring 2 people, you plus somebody else, who else in the room should we hire? And that's when the strongest leaders rise up because they've been paying attention during the whole interview, and they will sell you on hiring someone else, and they've actually done a pretty good job at selling me on the hiring the other person in the room. And then my last question is, how much money do you need to make this year? And how much money would you like to make 3 years from now? So I've got a bit of a gauge on where you are, and here's what happens. I need 100. I need 98. I need 97. I need 100, but I'll work for 96.5. It actually, people will give you the real number that they'll work for, and that job inflation all of a sudden gets squeezed out based on competition, and it's legal to ask that question in every state in the United States. So that's why I look for culture. See, when Steve Jobs was building the Macintosh, he showed the wooden prototype to people, and he said if he couldn't see the twinkle in their eyes, he didn't bring them in for an interview to see if they had the skills because he didn't care if they had the skills. When you show your painted picture to potential candidates, if they're not vibrating with excitement, don't come to a group interview. I had a job candidate one time, she's like, I don't want to come to a group interview, it sounds really stupid. Okay, bye. Well, why not? Well, because if you can't work in a group interview, you're going to hate working in an office that has no walls and no workstations. Well, but I'm really good. No, you don't get it. You're the wrong culture. If you want to come to a group interview and you're willing to stand on a corner and wear a blue wig and wave at cars for exposure like the rest of us do, then we might bring you in. But if that sounds kind of awkward, there's all kinds of other average companies you can go work for. We're good with that. See, that's where Jobs was brilliant, was he knew that the only people he wanted were the people who were insane enough to think that they could build insanely great products to challenge the status quo and change the human race. You had to be a little bit crazy to think that could happen. So that's who joined, were the crazy ones, the insane ones, who had the skills to do the stuff, but they were insane and crazy enough to think they could change the world. And then they made all their decisions completely aligned with those values. Do you know that challenging the status quo is still one of Apple's core values? When Apple was choosing a soft drink company to partner with for some marketing, what soft drink company do you think they chose? Who would you choose as your soft drink company to partner with? Coke. Who said Coke? Is Coke challenging the status quo? Coke is the status quo. You can't partner with them if you're challenging the status quo. By the way, everybody says Coke. Who would you choose? Pepsi, right? Dr. Pepper. Pepsi is challenging the status quo. Shit, if anybody has to challenge Coke, it's Pepsi. That's who they wanted to partner with. The new generation, they partnered with Pepsi. It was logical. Every decision at Apple was not by accident. It was all to challenge the status quo, to create these insanely great products. They obsessed about stuff. When you open their packaging, it just feels good, right? It's just like, don't you just want to buy more just to open that box again? Fuck, it's so cool, right? Remember the first one? It was like, like you touch the box and forget the phone. I take this to bed. That's insane. That's what they have to do. See, part of what you're recruiting for are the core values of people. What are your core values? If you're like Wayne Mullins from Ugly Mug Marketing, you're a little bit hippie, guess what? You want to recruit more people who are a little bit hippie, but you know what? He's more business than anybody in this room. He and I talked last night about more business concepts and business people that are well connected in North America than anybody I've had a discussion with in the last 6 to 12 months. He looks a little bit hippie, but on the inside, this guy is hardcore Jim Collins business. So that's your core values. What are you recruiting for? Core values cannot be single words. It's too confusing to people. Your core values have to be short phrases, like at College Pro Painters. Deliver what you promise, respect the individual, pride in all you do. Those have been the core values for the company for 43 years, and they are willing to fire people who break those core values. So I was raised Roman Catholic. I got a little bit cynical over time. One of the reasons I got cynical was because you could go to church and say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been like 32 years since my last confession. But it's been like how long? And then they'd say, well, do 16 Hail Marys and 4 whatevers, and you're absolved of your sins. Really? Like, that's all? I can break all the rules, and now I just have to say a couple prayers, and I'm good to go? In my company, if you break core values, you're gone. It's kind of like, I think, if you break the law 3 times, you should go to jail for life because you've decided you can't play nice with the rest of us, and I don't want to have insurance and security systems and live in fear. If you can't play nice, go to Baffin Island. Like, live there forever. So in my company, the core values are things we are willing to fire people if they break them. And we will recruit people who already live them. Now, we have other values that are aspirational values. Okay? In the Torah, in Judaism, they have 614, I think, commandments. Like, you can't live all 614. There's way too many. But you aspire, you work towards, right? Well, what are the aspirational values that we're going to have in our company, and what are the core values that we're going to live by, and then recruit people who live by those already. So after you know people have the right culture fit, how do you find out if they have the skills? See, I don't care if you have the skills until I know you fit. There's an old adage of hire for attitude, train for skills. Don't. That will get you 7% a year. That'll get you 7% growth. You have to hire for attitude and skills. But only find out if they have the skills once you know they fit culturally. So I use the systems from a book called Top Grading. The guys, Brad and Jeff Smart, their second book was called Who. I'll make it even faster for you. Instead of you reading, Top Grading was 800 pages, Who's about 200. Let me speed the whole process up for you in about 1 or 2 minutes. Here's how you know if someone has the skills. Make a list of the top 5 or 6 things the person has to achieve in their job over the next 2 years. And if they get those 5 or 6 things done, you'd have been thrilled at your decision to hire them today. Give you an example. Anybody hiring someone right now? Anybody doing, what kind of role? Sales? Anybody hiring like VP, director kind of roles? Okay, so sales. Let's say he's a VP of sales. If you were hiring a vice president of sales, could you make a list of the 5 things he has to get done over the next 2 years? Right? It would only take you about 3 minutes, right? There's your list of the 5 things he has to get done. Bring that list back to today. That's the scorecard. That plus the core values they have to live by is their scorecard. Now do a job description describing that job and interview people to see if they've done what's on that scorecard. See, here's the problem I have with our school system. What do we give the kids in December and in June? Report cards. In December, they've been in school, by the way, September, October, November, December, and now we say, oh, here's how you're doing. They're like, oh, I didn't even know you were rating me on that stuff. You know what we should do? Day 1, sit down with the parents and go, by the way, this is what we're going to rate Johnny on for the next 8 months. All this stuff. So in December, we're going to see how he's doing against these things. Oh, and by the way, this is how he has to behave in class. Be nice to people, be a team player, right? All the core values. That's a report card. That's all it is. So do a report card for the role, a scorecard, bring it back to today and hire people to say, have you done it before? Imagine if you were in school and you could say, this is what you're going to rate me on, and I could actually hire people to go into the classroom who've done that before. It's like repeating a grade. Of course you're going to get an A. So here's an example. Does anybody here use job descriptions in their company? A couple of you? Okay, you have to use job descriptions. Every single role has to have a job description, half a page or 1 page of paper. What's the job about? What's the pay scale? You know, that has to be done. Doesn't cost you anything, but it provides clarity and alignment. Anyone using a scorecard, though? 1? Okay. You're ahead of almost everybody here. Well, you are. Here's the difference between a job description and a scorecard, though. Let's say that in our company, we were looking for a great swimmer. We wanted a fast, strong swimmer who's experienced with all strokes, a competitive team player. That would be a job description for a great swimmer. This is what a scorecard would look like. We want a swimmer who can win Olympic gold across 3 to 4 strokes, someone who can break world records, and someone who wins in individual and team events. You see the difference? Now, in our interview, we can interview to make sure that people have done this before. If you've done this before, chances are we're going to want to hire you, especially if you live the kind of core values that we have of leadership, attainment, tenacity, introspection, and interdependence. Here's what you get if you hire based on just job descriptions alone. You end up with fast, strong swimmers who are experienced with all strokes. She's competitive and she's a team player. Woohoo! Go 7% growth. But if you really want to grow, this is what you need. And they're out there. They just won't work for our companies yet if our companies are average, if our culture is average. I had a CEO one time and he goes, you know, we don't really have a culture in our company. I said, well, that's your culture. Your culture is one of no culture. You're kind of like, If you can't describe that energy, if people don't walk in your door and go, oh my gosh, I want to stay here, they're not going to stay. You've seen it at people's cocktail parties, right? You ever been to somebody's cocktail party when you show up at the front door and they hit you right at the front door, boom, here's like a tequila shot in a lime that's been carved out, or like a glass of champagne, like you haven't even gotten in the front door? Doesn't that just change the party a little bit? Versus you walk in and you're kind of wandering around and there's no music playing and it's kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Like this is an hour I'm never going to get back, right? Been there, right? Think about your parties, or think about your business the same way as those best parties. I will never forget going to this friend's house for a Mexican-themed party and being greeted at the front door by this 6-year-old kid who said, first words as I got to the door, salt or no salt? I'm like, pardon? Would you like salt with your tequila? He's 6. I'm like, I'll have salt. He's got all these limes that have been carved out. He rims one and he hands it to his sister who's 16, and she pours a shot of tequila in it and hands it to us. I'm like, this is going to be a kick-ass party. Think about the people you're hiring the same way. And then raise the bar. Every time you hire a new employee, raise the bar. And no more excuses of my area is different, my city is different. There's all kinds of great employees. You only need another 10 great ones to get rid of the 10 bad ones. And then one by one, you start attracting more. My goal would be that half of these companies double the size of their company and completely kick ass, and the other half of you work for them or get acquired. I'm not here to be a kumbaya group hug. Or maybe this whole group succeeds and kicks ass, and the people that didn't show up get acquired or just become kind of whatevers. But you have to decide. It's kind of like what we said about leaning out into the future and deciding that 25% of your revenue is going to come from people outside of the Alexandria market to bring more money in to create more of the velocity of money supply. That's where your businesses are going to grow and are going to flourish. There's a timber company in town. I guarantee you they're not selling all their timber to people who live here. That's why they're successful. They figured out how to find stuff and sell it elsewhere. So what would Jack do? Jack Welch, the CEO of General Electric. What did Jack do that was brilliant around the area of people? I actually sat with his successor, Jeff Imelt, at a conference we were both speaking at. And I said to Jeff, what did Jack Welch do related to the area of people to know if he had the best people in his company? He said every 6 months, Jack drew this diagram where results would be on the y-axis, low results at the bottom, high results at the top, values across the bottom, low results on the left, high results on the right. Every 6 months, he would draw this diagram and he'd put the names of all of his direct reports in one of these 4 boxes. And then he would put the names of all the people who reported to his direct reports in one of these 4 boxes. So think about you, anyone that reports to you or anyone who reports to their team, putting their names in one of these 4 boxes. Here's how the boxes work. What would Jack do if somebody had low results, low values? What would he do? He'd fire them, right? Don't be afraid of it. It's a simple word. He'd fire them. You do it with respect. They can go work somewhere else. What would Jack do, though, if somebody was up here? Super high results, super high values. Maybe promote. Maybe bonus.
Praise.
Maybe praise, maybe acknowledge. What would he do? Talking like you're super A players. God forbid they quit. What would you do?
Give them ownership.
Give them ownership, maybe? You'd handcuff them to your company. I used to say, like a hint from 50 Shades of Grey, and somebody said, beat them? I'm like, no, you read the chapter wrong. You'd handcuff them to your company for at least 5 or 10 years. You find a way to keep them in your company for at least 5 or 10 years. And it's different for every A player. I'll give you an example. Let's say that these first 2 rows are in my company and I want to handcuff them. Some want more equity, some want phantom stock, some want profit sharing, some want more vacation pay, some want more autonomy, some want more responsibility, some want more free time, some want more visibility with the press, some want to spin off the division and let them run it because they're like the coolest part of the division. Some want us to buy a company and let them run that. Some want more leadership development. Some want to do their executive MBA part-time at night. Some want, there's like 10 different ways to handcuff people. See, here's what's different. Every A player has something unique about them that will literally handcuff them to your company. You can't handcuff everybody the same. You have to find the one thing that's going to kind of keep that person and handcuff them for you to 10 years. I had one of my CEOs that I was mentoring one time, and he called me up almost in tears one day. And I said, what happened? He goes, they just poached Victoria. I'm like, what happened? He goes, well, I'd been coaching him for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks at this time. He said, every year for the last 4 years, I gave her a 15 to 20% pay raise. And she came into my office today and said she quit for less money. And she told me that the reason that she was leaving was because I didn't listen to her for 4 years. For 4 years, she's been asking for more vacation time, and every year I gave her more pay. Today, she quit for 3 weeks more vacation. She's now getting 5 weeks vacation. She said she didn't have the time to spend the money that she was making, that she wanted more time. See, Dean didn't get it. We actually, at When a Hinder Got Junk, all of our employees got 5 weeks vacation. We realized that as owners, we want 5, 6 weeks vacation. If it's truly a family, the kids get the same amount of vacation as well. You have a crappy company if you're only giving people 2 weeks vacation. It doesn't cost you money to give people vacation. It's the same salary. People will actually get more done the week before vacation than they do if they're there all year. He lost people because he wasn't giving them enough vacation time, even though he was overpaying. He could have paid less. People don't show up work for sick when they have vacations. Your recruiting cost drops because everybody wants to work for you. Imagine if you were the employer of choice in Alexandria who gave everybody 5 weeks vacation. I'm saying like the day you start here, year 1, you get 5 weeks vacation. It wouldn't be hard to recruit people. They'd be like, hell yeah, I'm in, right? And then guess what? No one quits. Your training costs drop, your recruiting costs drop, your sick time drops. Our 5 weeks vacation included sick days. So we hired healthy people. They didn't take any sick days. The only people who take sick days are, A, people who are slightly lazy or they need more vacation time, so they call in sick, or they're really sick, or they show up at work because they don't want to lose one of their sick days. They show up at work sick, and then everybody gets sick. Give people more vacation. Spin-offs are huge. And what about if someone's down here? High values, low results. What do you do with them? Super high values, low results. Everybody says train them. Wrong answer. I used to say this. Incentivize, wrong answer. Fire them? No, you don't fire them. These are the high values people, low results. What do you do with them? Coach them, wrong answer. I used to say coach and train, wrong answer. Jim Collins in Good to Great gave us the clue.
Change their job.
Change what?
Their job.
Get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and get everybody in the right seats. Maybe they're in the wrong seat. Give you an example. We had a guy, Christopher Bennett. Christopher was brilliant. His nickname was High Gloss. He was really high gloss. He was, had been written up in the Associated Press as a political wonder kid when he was 21, had written speeches on political thought. 2 of his speeches have been published or been spoken by 2 Canadian prime ministers. He was on Rock and Roll Jeopardy, spoke 4 languages fluently, played cello in a symphony orchestra, literally like a Renaissance kid right at 23 years old. The problem is he was massively dyslexic. His natural writing style was the reverse mirror image of letters, so he couldn't read very well. We couldn't train and coach Christopher to do his job any better. His job was to coach franchisees, but he'd never read the manual. We couldn't coach him to read better. He couldn't read very well. Now, Christopher was amazing at talking, at speaking, and people would do whatever he said. So we put Christopher into PR. His job was to phone the media and tell them stories about the future of our company. He landed 600 stories about our company in 3 years. He became the head of PR for Best Buy. You put someone in the right role and they excel. If you train them, they become average in their weaknesses. When I was in grade school, my parents got me a tutor in French. For 2 years, I went to a French tutor. Canada, we speak French. So, je parle français comme un bébé. That's as good as I got. I can say I speak French like a baby. 2 years. I hated my French tutor. I hated going. I felt like an idiot. Now, when I was in grade school, I also won citywide public speaking competitions. How much time do you think my parents ever sent me to a speaking coach? Never. Instead of saying, wow, this kid's really good at speaking, let's get him a speaking coach, they said, wow, he's really, really horrible in French, let's get him really, really average in French. No, now I'm still horrible in French, and I hated them for doing it to me for 2 years. Put them in the right seat, give them training and development around what they're great at, they'll become unbelievable at that. So you need to maybe show them where they are and show them where you want them to be and move them up that path. What about if somebody's here? High results, low values. What do you do with them? These are the superstar salesmen that nobody likes, or the engineer that no one can get along with. High results, low core values. They just don't fit culturally. What do you do with them? You have to fire them. This is where most of us don't have the guts to build the company. This is where most of us will sit over a drink and go, business is hard. No, it's not. You're just not making the right decisions. Business is not hard. We make it very hard on ourselves. I have to manage people. No, you don't. When you hire the right people, you just get out of their way and they'll run the company for you. You don't have to manage or hold people accountable if you hire accountable people. I was asked by Fortune magazine, the first time they wrote about us in 2003, how do you motivate employees? I said, I don't motivate employees. I hire motivated people. I inspire them with our future, where we're going in our painted picture. I get out of their way and I support them. I don't motivate anybody. You know, people wake up in the morning motivated or not, period, because they're either motivated people or they're not. Anybody here have goals for themselves, personal goals written down? Good. Anybody here have a personal bucket list? You know, all the things you want to do before you kick the bucket? I actually sent my bucket list off to someone the other day. They heard me talking about it. The CEO from California, she said, send me your bucket list, I'll send you mine. So I send it off to her. She goes, wow, one of your goals is to have a golf holiday to Palm Springs. She goes, I own a villa in Palm Springs that sleeps 6 people. She goes, you and your wife can take it for a week whenever you want for free. I'd love to make one of your dreams come true. When you hire people that have dreams, they will work on making their dreams come true. You don't motivate them. The cost of keeping the wrong person is 15 times their annual salary. If you have a person that you're paying $50,000 a year, and they're the negative, grumpy people, it's costing you $750,000 a year to keep them. You're missing on revenue. You're missing on management time. All of your time trying to manage them and hold them accountable and prevent the problems is all lost time. When you have the right people in the right seats who are all aligned with your painted picture, then everything grows, and it doesn't cost you any money. Business isn't difficult. We make it difficult. Now, if you're going to get rid of somebody, you have to do it in the right way. You have to do it with integrity. We've heard the golden rule, right? Treat people the way you want to be treated. I just heard of something the other day called the platinum rule, which is treat people the way they want to be treated. If you're firing someone, you have to fire them in the way that they would like to get fired. You have to do it in a way that respects them as individuals. So I was having breakfast one morning with a mentor, a guy named Rob Hunt. Rob was running a multi-billion-dollar company up in Canada called the Pattison Group, the largest employer in Western Canada. And we're having breakfast, and he said, is there anybody in your company you know you have to fire? I said, yeah, I've got this one guy. He said, what's his name? I said, Tyler. He said, how long have you known you should fire Tyler? I said, I don't know, about, 6 months. He said, well, give me every reason you haven't fired Tyler. So I started giving him all the reasons. He listened for a couple minutes. He said, so basically, you're chicken? I went, yeah, pretty much. He said, when are you going to fire Tyler? And I said, I'll do it by Friday. He said, don't tell me again when you're going to do something by. Tell me when you're going to do it. When are you going to fire Tyler? And I said, I'll do it tomorrow. He shook his head. I said, fine, I'll do it today. He said, what time will you fire Tyler today? And I said, I'll do it at 12 o'clock. He said, good. Call me at 12:05 and I'll be there for you because I know this is going to be hard. But he said, you make darn sure you're there for Tyler. He said, every day for the last 6 months that you didn't fire Tyler, you crushed the will of a human being. Every day for 6 months, he came into work and you picked on him, you excluded him, you told him all the things he was doing wrong. Every day for 6 months, he's wanted to quit, but he didn't want to leave you high and dry. But because you didn't have the courage to act like a leader and you didn't have the courage to let him go, you completely crushed a human. So you go back to your office, you fire Tyler, and you make darn sure you're there to support him until he's back on his feet because you failed as the leader that you were. So I went back to the office, 8 o'clock, put my bag down, I turned to Tyler, I said, Ty, can I grab you for a sec? We walked into one of the boardrooms, turned around, he's 6'4" like I am, we hadn't even sat down. I hadn't said anything yet, and we both started to cry. And his first words were, he spoke before I even had a chance to, he said, what took you so long? I told my mom 3 months ago you were going to fire me. Every day I came to work, he goes, I wanted to quit, I didn't want, like, he literally replayed my discussion with my mentor. Tyler knew that it was the right time to be let go, but he didn't want to quit. He just said, will you please mentor me until I'm back on my feet? I said, of course. Tyler left. I did mentor him. I was getting text messages and Facebook messages and emails from him for years. Hope you're well, love you, how are the kids? Got an email from him about 4 years ago saying, thank you for firing me that day. Thank you for setting me free. It was the best business decision of my career, and I know one of the hardest for you, but thank you for setting me free. Tyler went on to start his own PR company. He did PR for Chipotle and Milestones, a few brands that you might know of. He was extraordinarily happy. I got a phone call about 3 years ago that Tyler had gone out on a hike, a 5-day hike from Squamish to Coquitlam, and he'd gone missing. We had a 7,700-hour search for Tyler, the largest search in BC history, and we never found the body. We found footprints and ski pole marks. He was trying to do a trail that hadn't been done in 90 years. Tyler's gone. I can live with myself because I know that I did it in the right way. But I'm going to ask you a question. If you know you've got an employee in your company, one or more employees in your company, that should be fired because of results or core values misalignment, if you know you've got one or more employees that should be fired because of values or fit or results, I'd like you to stand up. Let me repeat this in Cajun. If you know you have someone in your company who should be fired because they're not getting you the results or they're the wrong core values, I'd like you to stand up. There's no way there's only 4 of you, but please stay standing. Normally 80% of the room will be standing. So the rest of you sitting, all of your employees are perfect, they're all getting the results. I'm gonna give you one more chance to stand. One more, good. One more, okay. Yeah, if I had a couple drinks into you, I could get you all standing. Stay standing for a second. What I'm gonna ask the people who had the courage to stand up and say yes, they know they have at least one of the wrong people, I'd like you to commit to letting these people go by the end of the day. I want you to do it in the right way. And then if you don't do it today, every day you get ready for work going forward, I want you to look in the mirror and think about Tyler. But I want you to do it in the right way, and I want you to set them free. So you can sit down. Unemployment goes up by 6% in Alexandria. We'll let this Canadian in, right? You have the cost of keeping the wrong person is 15 times your salary. I know that if I got all of you to sit down over a couple of beer, I could probably get more of you to say yes to that. Any questions around people before I go into reverse engineering? I'll save some questions at the end. Reverse engineering. If we're going to take the right vision of where we're going with the right people in the company, how do we work it backwards to make it all come true? You lean out into the future and describe what the company looks like with either a goal, a project, your painted picture. What's the clear vision look like? And then where are we today? What does it look like today? What's our current state look like? And then map it out. From where we're going back to where we are, work it backwards. It's kind of like a dinner party. You know what it needs to look like, and then you do all those things back to today. Right? When the guests are showing up, you don't start preparing dinner. You started preparing probably the day before. You probably even set the table the day before or the morning of, right? You have a list of all the things and you start doing it all in the order that you do it. That's how you can serve a 6-course meal to 16 people and still be completely relaxed the whole time, is because you've reverse engineered the dinner. Every goal or every project or every company is just like building a jigsaw puzzle. Now, if you're building a jigsaw puzzle, where would you start? If you were going to build this jigsaw puzzle, what would you be starting at? The corners, right? Yeah, the red umbrella? Yeah, most entrepreneurs would be like the red umbrella, the big shiny object. No, you start at the corners, and then you do the sides, and then you work in from there. You want to drive a 13-year-old crazy? Buy them a jigsaw puzzle, take the 4 corners out, and hand them the puzzle. You got them in lockdown all afternoon now. But you literally build your business the same way. Every business needs to have 5 core goals established for the year. What's your revenue goal, your profit goal, your customer engagement goal, your employee engagement goal, and what strategic initiative are you pushing towards? That could be like 25% of your revenue outside of Alexandria, those kinds of strategic pushes. You look at where you are, your current state, just doing a quick SWOT analysis. Just get your team to spend 5 minutes, no more, to write down the top 3 strengths of your company, top 3 weaknesses of your company, top 3 opportunities facing your company, and the top 3 threats of your company. That's your current state. And then I use what's called the GE workout process to work out how to get the future going. I think of all of the potential things to get to that goal. So if we've got our goals for the quarter, what are all the projects that we could do to get those goals to happen? And you throw all the projects up on the wall. And then you organize all the projects by area, and you vote on them, and you pick the core few key projects that you're going to be working on. It's not about all of the ideas, it's not about the cool ideas, it's about the low-hanging fruit that are going to move you towards your goals. The momentum is going to create momentum. And then I put a SMART goal in place for every goal or every project. I use a different acronym for most people with SMART. For me, the S stands for shared. You have to commit it to one other person. It's got to be committed in writing. It's committed to your boss or your peer or a subordinate or a mentor or a group, your spouse. Commit the goal in writing. Every goal has to be measurable. If it doesn't have a dollar sign, a number sign, or a percentage sign, it's not measurable. Every goal has to have one of those 3 symbols in it. A dollar sign, a number sign, or a percentage sign. Every goal that we set for our company has to be attainable. Yes, it can be a stretch, but there has to be some reasonable expectation that we can get it. Otherwise, it just breaks down the culture and it breaks down the excitement of the team. Every goal or every project we're working on has to be relevant. Like, why are we doing this? What bigger part of our painted picture or what bigger goal is it going to make come true? And then every goal has to be time-based. Tell me when you're going to do the work, not when it's going to be done by. The reason we don't get all the stuff on our to-do list done is we haven't thought about how long it's going to take to do each of the things on our list, and we haven't said where in our calendar we're going to do the work. Don't tell me it'll be done by the end of the month. Tell me when in your calendar today you're going to do it. Put it in your calendar, color-code it in red for project work, and build all your other busy stuff around it. So base it all into your calendar. And then put milestones in place. So if you know it's a 4-hour project and you're going to do it in 4 one-hour chunks, then check in along the way to make sure that you're actually getting that progress done. That's why your employees don't tend to get their projects done on time, is we don't help them break it down or teach them the methodology to break it down and commit to when they're going to do it versus when they're going to get it done by. Again, simple steps. I outline it in double-double. Has anyone here ever been to a bad meeting? Put your hand up. Has anyone here ever run a bad meeting? Okay. Here's a different question. Put your hand up if you've ever had training for more than maybe half an hour or more than an hour. Have you ever had a good amount of training on how to run meetings? Put your hand up. 1 person, maybe 2. Put your hand up if you've had more than an hour training on how to play baseball. That's the problem with our companies, by the way. Only 2 people in the room have had any training on running meetings, and we have meetings every day. We've all had more training on how to play baseball than we have on running meetings. Give you another example. Put your hand up if you've ever had more than a half-hour training on how to effectively manage email. 1 person. Wow. 2 maybe. See, the problem isn't that business is hard. The problem is that we make it hard on ourselves. Would we ever let kids go play Little League? Johnny, go play Little League, but I'm not going to train you. That'd be stupid. Mark, Go run a company, but I'm not going to train you how to do it. Just wing it for a while. See how you do. Fucking dumb. Stupid. We gave all of our 248 employees at the head office training every quarter on email management. 1 hour to 2 hours of email management training every quarter. All of our employees every year got training on running effective meetings. All of them. How the hell can you run an effective meeting if no one's trained you? How could you throw a baseball if you don't understand how to throw a baseball? You'd be throwing like this all day. What the hell's wrong with Johnny? I don't know, but he's a great CEO. So let me show you how to run meetings. By the way, before I dive into meetings, I want us to show you who writes a lot of emails. Put your hand up. And you've had no training on that. Who thinks they're effective at writing emails? Let me show you how bad we are. I want you as a group to read this sentence, read it out loud, and put the emphasis on the first word. Go ahead. Okay, read it again and put the emphasis on the second word. Read it again, put the emphasis on the third word. Read it again, put the emphasis on the fourth word. Read it again, put the emphasis on the fifth word. Read it again, put the emphasis on the sixth word. So you can't be clear sending emails to people if a 6-word sentence can be read 6 completely different ways. You have to have meetings. Meetings don't suck. We just suck at running meetings. But you have to have face-to-face meetings. You have to have face-to-face discussions because you're completely messing up your company sending emails to each other or to business people or to customers or to suppliers. There's more miscommunication happening because of email and other written communication than in anything else in our companies today. And you have no right ever to say meetings suck until you have all of your employees read this one chapter from the book. If you don't do anything else, but you get everybody a copy of the book and you make them read the chapter on meetings, you'll win. And think of the kids playing baseball. They've all had more training on that. Give you another example on emails. How many emails a day do you get, approximately? 75? 75? 20? How many emails roughly? 20, 30? How many emails? 20? What's that? How many? 10, okay. 30. What percentage of the emails do you read carefully? 10%. 10% of the 10. What's that? Half of the 10. Here's what scares me. Are you guys the owners of the companies? What owner? Awesome. So here's a very good example. The owners of 3 local companies, okay? It's hard to run a company in Alexandria. You get 30 emails a day, like not that many, right? And he reads 10% of them carefully. Holy fuck. It's no wonder we have a problem. I got the CEO who reads 3 out of his 30 carefully, and you guys only read 10% of your 10. My God, I would die and go to heaven if I only got 10 emails, like in an hour. The problem is no one's reading anything carefully. We're all scanning it, and we can't even read a 6-word sentence carefully. See, the problem isn't that business is hard. We're making it extraordinarily hard for ourselves to run companies. Here's how to run meetings. Every meeting has to have a clear purpose. Just the one sentence, why are we here? Today we are here to learn how to double our company, double our revenue and profit in 3 years or less. Period. That's why we're here. What are the 3 main outcomes for your meeting? What are the 3 things you're going to get done? Every meeting has to have an agenda. No agenda, no attenda. Just allow your employees to say, if I don't know what we're covering, in what order, and for how many minutes on each, I don't even know if I want to show up yet. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just in your appointment request, what are we covering, in what order, how many minutes on each item. Start every meeting on time. I don't care if it's Alexandria time or anywhere else, start on time. If you say people are going to start at X, start at X. Now, why do people tend to show up late for meetings? Because they don't start on time. Why else? Meetings are what? Awful? They don't see the reason why they should be showing up. What's the system that's broken? Sorry? Meetings are long. What's the broken system that has people showing up late? Because people don't fail, systems fail. No accountability. By the way, you've given all the same reasons and you show up late for meetings. Why are we late for meetings? What's the system that has us showing up late?
They recur.
Meetings, recurring meetings. Sorry? Time management. It's tied to time management. Give you an example. airlines have put in place something that has the planes, for the most part, leaving on time. Okay? Like a pretty freaking complex business, right? But they, for the most part, leave on time. What's the system? What have they put in place to make that happen? Schedule. Boarding time. What's boarding time gives them a buffer, right? There's 3 buffers that airlines have put in place that we have to hit these 3 buffers. The one is bags have to be checked. So that's why I don't check bags, because I can miss that buffer. The next one is boarding time. And I have status way up the airline so I can actually board, like, right. But the last one is the doors close. It doesn't matter how big my status is. When the door is closed, it's closed. Hi, I'm super lead. I'm Emerald. They're like, we don't care. Door's closed. But look, we're done, sir. Door's closed. See, with your meetings, we don't close the door, and we should. And the meetings have to start on time. But the reasons they don't is there's no buffer. The buffer is from the meeting before. See, here's what happens all over the world, all 28 countries I've spoken in, everyone books the meetings the same way. We take the gap in the schedule, like if this meeting is done at 12, who here has a phone call set at 12 o'clock? Anybody? You do, right? Now you have to leave here at 11:55 to get outside and relax and decompress. Otherwise, the first thing you're going to say is, hi, my name is Jerry. Is it Jerry? Dave? What's your name? Gary. Hi, my name is Gary. Sorry I'm late. You're not sorry you're late. You just didn't plan. Your plan is every meeting and every phone call has to stop 5 minutes prior to the scheduled ending time. So for me, to do respect to you guys, I want to finish this presentation at 11:55. So if I finish at 11:55, I've done my job. Now, I don't know if you saw me early on in the meeting, but I kept checking my watch to make sure that I could calculate that this was 2 hours before, because it's still on Phoenix time. But I'm going to be finishing this at 10:50, which is really, or 9:50, sorry, which is really the right time. So I keep looking at my watch to make sure I'm going to be on time, right? I will finish, though, 5 minutes prior to the scheduled ending time. So here's the rule that we put in place for all of our employees. Every meeting, every phone call finishes 5 minutes prior to the scheduled ending time. That allows us to show up and say, hi, it's Cameron. We're on time for our 12 o'clock call. By the way, before we dive into this, we've got 20 minutes set for the call today. Our policy here is we finish everything 5 minutes early so that we're always on time for the next thing. And the people will be like, wow, I've noticed that. You guys are always on time. It's really easy to put in place. Tell everyone in your company that every meeting and every phone call finishes 5 minutes prior to the scheduled ending time. So stop 5 minutes early. Book everything for half the time you first think about booking it for. You can get it done faster. Compress time. Don't allow everything to just expand. Parkinson's law says that everything will expand to fill the space you give it. If you give people a full day to do something, they'll take a full day. If you tell people only spend 5 minutes to do a SWOT analysis, they'll do it in 5 minutes. Just give them that time. Every meeting has 3 roles that need to be played. Every meeting has 3 roles. There's a moderator, a timekeeper, and a parking lot. Someone needs to make sure we stay on track. The timekeeper makes sure that we stay on the agenda. And the parking lot is somebody who writes down those great ideas of things we want to talk about but aren't on the agenda. So maybe we can talk about it at the end or we can take it offline. Every meeting has 3 styles that take place during the meeting. There's information being shared, there's creative discussion around some ideas or topics, and there's decisions being made, consensus decision. The 3 styles, again, are info share, creative discussion, and consensus decision. Info share is information being shared. It's either top down or bottom up or laterally. You owe $40. What's the local charity that supports entrepreneurship? Is there one? When you go outside, there's a guy outside, Bob or somebody, who's always, go give Bob $40 today. The local guy who came in for coffee.